Hey everybody, real quick tutorial for you today. So a bunch of you guys have been asking, hey, how do I get my signal out of my DAW into some live gear like a compressor or whatnot? And my first suggestion would be go check out my how to use a patch bay video, because that explains a lot of it right there. But the basic gist is if you have a sound card with more than two outputs, you can use those to route live audio gear to, like say compressors, EQs, all kinds of cool outboard stuff, and then route it back in through your sound card's inputs. Again, patch bays come in real handy for this sort of thing because you can do permanent connections. You can, move stuff all over the place and just have a lot of fun. But in the simplest terms, all we're doing is using here in Reaper a little plugin called Ria Insert. And what this does is it lets you set up your outputs back to your inputs. In this case, I'm using analog 5 output on my RME Fireface 800 to the analog 11 input on the Fireface 800. And in between those is a DBX 160 XT, which I use on kick drums. This is a tip from Warren Hewer. It turns out the 160 XTs are pretty freaking awesome as far as kick drums are concerned. So now instead of having a plugin, I've got a real live compressor going on this kick drum. And if we turn that off, see how everything's kind of clipping and out of control. Now, if you check over here, you see this automatic device latency adjustment. That way, if you've got extra plugins and whatnot in your signal chain, it's going to delay the entire mix so everything syncs up perfectly. And you can even send a ping out to the audio gear and it will time and make any additional adjustments. This is a super cool feature. Like I said, I've got it going on a kick drum right now, and I think it's pretty awesome. Something really cool. And of course, on the master bus, I've got it going as well. So what I've got that plugged into is my IGS S-type bus compressor, which is the same thing as an SSL bus compressor. It's a very popular sound and whatnot. And here you can see I can switch it in and out. And as you can see, you get really aggressive with the controls on it, and it's still super, super smooth. Just basically, you want to use a 30 millisecond attack, auto release, 4:1 ratio, and then just set your threshold and output to taste. And for you guys asking, hey, while I use a software compressor, should I really be using a hardware one? The software is great, and you can definitely do a lot, but having a hardware compressor just pushes things over the edge just a little bit more in terms of authenticity, in my opinion. So yeah, it is definitely worth grabbing one in the long run, and it's something you can keep coming back to. I use that particular compressor on room mics a lot as well. It's a really badass compressor. So the big trade-off here to using real-time effects is you have to render in real time. So the one thing you want to make sure you do is don't render your track like you normally would. You want to set your output to real-time render or online render, and that way when you hit this, it's going to play it back in real time and play your tracks through those hardware compressors. Oh, you definitely have to make sure you get it right and make sure everything's set up and whatnot. There's definitely less room for error for doing it this way. But then again, you get to use cool hardware compressors. And the added bonus of that is they all sound a little bit differently. So you're definitely going to get your own sound, and you won't have the exact same sound of the same plugins that everyone else is using. Kind of cool, in my opinion. Anyway, if you need more information or are just slightly confused, make sure to check out my how to use a patch bay video. It kind of lays out a lot of things on how you can set things up and connect things and whatnot. Remember, guys, those extra outputs on your sound card aren't just there to look good. You can actually put them to use. And with all kinds of cool used gear floating around on eBay, you can probably get yourself a couple of really badass compressors for not a whole lot of money. I definitely recommend checking out the 160 XTs. They're pretty awesome on kick. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. And if you're still confused, make sure to check out my how to use a patch bay video. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time.